Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series here in Montreal, Canada, as we are heating things up in day number 2, getting into our second match in just a few moments' time. Hello, hi out there on the world. I'm Nathanius, your host for this weekend, joined by Zombie Grub and Rotterdam, two of my best friends. Roddy.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, Marco.
Well, I guess I just got the cold reality there, Kev. Zombie Grub doesn't like my Terran whining.
One of my absolute best Terran friends, Nate. When I see missile turrets, I think of you. When I see sensor towers, I think of you.
Thank you.
When I see a Terran not moving out, I think of you.
Well, moving out with their main army, at least.
Yes.
That's all going to change soon. The rise of the battlecruiser. It begins today.
I'm interested in hearing more about that because I actually know nothing. I'm completely in the dark. Obviously, I've seen that little clip on Twitter, but anyways, I think you're supposed to talk about...
We're going to hear more about that tomorrow, by the way,
Yeah.
for those of you that are curious about some potential changes, shaking things up here for StarCraft. But yeah, all right, we got PVZ coming up next. Roddy, I was asking you during the break, I'm like, is this guy that much of a cheeser?
He's pretty dirty. I feel like if there's one European Protoss that I can compare ShaDoWn to, I would say Hellraiser. They both like to build a lot of cannons. They both like to build a lot of shield batteries outside of the Zerg base. Take the game from there. This doesn't mean, however, that ShaDoWn is the type of Protoss that will always cannon rush or has to do something weird. He's absolutely perfectly fine and capable of playing a normal straight-up game with Phoenixes, Stargates, Oracles. That's all there. But I'm expecting a couple of pretty gnarly builds here.
And you've been bringing the passion to the casting desk so far, Zombie Grub. But how are you feeling about this match? I know you're a big fan of Scarlett.
That's a given for like 99% of the StarCraft population. So yes,
fair enough.
Yes. I mean, obviously, I'm excited to watch her like in Canada, and then I do think she always provides those good games. So the fact that she's up against someone else who's going to provide really weird, excellent games, it's going to be a fun series. But I don't know how close it's going to be. I mean, ShaDoWn's been doing better. Literally, like, you know, from Valencia, he did pretty well against Zerg, actually. And then, you know, now he's here in the round of 16, so he's getting better. But can he topple Scarlett? I don't know.
It's a tough ask. Will we consider it an upset if he were to beat Scarlett?
Absolutely, yeah. For me, Scarlett is a pretty big favorite going into this series. And it's not just because I think Scarlett is amazing and thinks he's really good, but Scarlett is also very smart. And she's also good at, you know, analyzing certain build orders and really picking it apart and hard countering stuff. And you may be able to surprise her with a build one game, but you're not going to do that 2 or 3 games in a row because Scarlett has always been very flexible in playing multiple styles. She's not a one-trick pony. She's the complete opposite. She's the one that's normally very unpredictable.
Yeah, we did get to see her play yesterday on stage. Had that rough series against Thermal, but well, I mean, the PVZ I think is something that is going to be a little bit different this time, especially if ShaDoWn doesn't exactly play to standard.
No, he has a pretty distinctive play style, at least, well, once again, maybe not every game, but I'm expecting a couple of weird builds at least once or twice in this best of 5. We can take a look here at some of the things that ShaDoWn has done in his career. This is the very first time he's made it into the WCS playoffs. He's had a lot of success in the Underdog series. That's that French tournament that always runs. He's won it. He's made it to the finals a couple of times, and obviously the French scene is strong, so that's pretty good.
That is very good. He's on a pretty good team as well. I got to pass Drogo on the way and ask him what he was going to do, and he did talk about the cannon rush. He says he's perfected all the cannon rushes.
He's perfected the cannon rush.
He's perfected it. So I don't know, like, you know, we've got these new maps, right? We're talking about for Terran, how they figure out these tank spots, and they can be a little abusive for the first couple of weeks. I wonder what it's like for the cannon rushes, right? Like, the Zergs are like, oh, hold on here.
They break
that
out
can block off.
Like, I think of a map. The first map that I'm thinking of is Cerulean Fall. I'm absolutely expecting cannons and batteries on that map because I feel that's a really good map for it. And I've been casting a lot of Hellraiser lately, and that young man from Ukraine, he's been doing very well. And if you ask me, Hellraiser, ShaDoWn in this matchup, they're pretty similar.
All right, we're going to introduce the players up on stage. Smixer, are there already some cannons warping in up there? Have you been able to check?
Just so, maybe. We'll find out in just a little bit, but I love that we warmed up with the best of the best in Cyril, but I want to hear from the fans here. Are you guys ready for our next match? Without further ado, let's bring them out on stage. It is ShaDoWn and Scarlett.
Nice PVZ to transition to as we get into our second round of 16 match. ShaDoWn literally carving out his best WCS performance as he wins in this tournament, doing extremely well. Scarlett
our Pyeongchang champion earlier in the year, has to get much further in this tournament if she wants to make it to the global finals.
Yes, I feel like she has to get at least second, right? And then she has a shot, but first, obviously, that gets you in. So that's the ultimate goal, but I mean, okay, say she beats ShaDoWn, stepping one little bit further here, she has to face Cyril again. And I did pin her as one of the people that was going to be able to defeat him, so there's that storyline to pay attention to, but got to be careful about ShaDoWn's cannon rushes, man. Like, I know that I think Bly was the guy that toppled him in Valencia, and Bly and Scarlett do talk a lot, they've been on the same team, so there might be some weakness there against those type of Zerg players. I'd still be very scared of a Protoss player like him who's doing better than he's ever done before.
Yeah, that's the downside of playing PvZ like that, right? In that very weird way where you force out those weird games. ShaDoWn, in a nutshell, can beat E-Laser, but then lose against Bly, you know? Well, normally you would say, like, that's supposed to be the other way around, you know? You're supposed to maybe defeat Bly, but lose against E-Laser. But that's just what it is, right? These games are going to be weird. The openings are very important. You don't control when the Zerg player drops their pool or their hatch, but obviously, when you go for those certain weird builds, you're either going to get lucky or a little unlucky.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing to consider. We talk about the success that Haas had, not only in this tournament, he's doing it again a little bit, but last tournament in WCS. Does ShaDoWn's style make his opponents susceptible to underestimating him?
That's a very good question. It's actually a really hard one to ask because in general, maybe the European scene does like get Haas a little bit from him. I'm not sure. But they've actually, Scarlett and ShaDoWn have never played. There's never been really a reason for them to play. So I don't know if she would, I mean, she must have asked around and been like, what is he? You know, I think she knows a little bit. So I don't know. I think she'd be like up for the challenge. Be like, oh, a weirder player? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think in general, stylistically, this should be a good opponent for Scarlett. I think Scarlett much rather plays against a dangerous but weird opponent than against the complete opposite of a Protoss that just sits back, defends, and builds up those death ball armies. Because then we know games where Scarlett sometimes just runs army into the Protoss opponent. So should be a fun one, Nate.
All right, thank you very much for your analysis. It's time for our next series. It's time for ShaDoWn versus Scarlett. Let's go.
Protoss versus Zerg, France versus Canada here. It's going to be a great match to kick off the day here. The second match of the day, Iron Pig with me is in control, and we have a great match for you guys coming right up.
Cannons, Dark Templar, round of 16. These are some of the things that get me out of bed in the morning and at night. Pig, but in this case will be the morning. The top right-hand side from France, it's the dark horse of the tournament, ShaDoWn.
And down here in the bottom left-hand side, one of the most legendary players in StarCraft 2's history. She was the champion at IM Pyeongchang earlier this year. She has had so many performances throughout her StarCraft 2 career. In the red, it is Scarlett.
And that scouting probe gets into the base, doesn't see a spawning pool, and there's a reactionary forge that does go down. I have to say I'm not entirely sure if this, like I said, I don't know that this is a planned thing from ShaDoWn, but we're going to have some tomfoolery. This is what I was excited about. Scarlett is one of the more cerebral players, and she will take some risks. You're going to cannon rush her, fine. She's going to have a base right up outside your natural. Now, the problem for me with this Pig is that this is not a leveraged cannon rush. This is an opportunistic one. It's saying, hey, you're being kind of greedy. The gateway's already down. The cybernetics core is already down. He can pump out units to deal with what's going on in his natural.
Yeah, that's actually what's very scary. I've got to agree with that analysis 100%. This is not a huge commitment. This cannons are pretty late, but they're still probably going to get the cancel on the hatchery. If ShaDoWn just gets 2 cannons down, maybe even a third one, it's going to be very hard for Scarlett to hang on. She's committing into the double gas, so she wants to tech up maybe into the Ravagers.
Yeah.
But there's already going to be Stalkers able to be produced back at home. And there we go. Look at that. Just cancel some cannons. The Cyber Core is finished. Where do you go from here? And it is going to be the Robo on the front. ShaDoWn does not know about that hatchery just yet. It's going to be a Robo, an cannon going down. An Adept is being built, and that's going to be the first scout ShaDoWn gets to that proxy hatchery. Remember, Scarlett is teammates with Bly, and I guarantee you they've had long discussions about how to counter cannon rushes, and a hatchery on the Protoss side of the map is definitely going to make this a very, very tricky equation.
And this could be his first sign that something weird is going to be happening here. I love this move from Scarlett. Natural gets canceled very inexpensively, and the Protoss like ShaDoWn would like to do this, where there's going to be a Robo or perhaps a Stargate, but some kind of frontal assault. Now that means it's units not back at home. And the tough thing here is it could just be a couple of Ravagers spotted on that high ground by that Overlord to dislodge this main base. Meanwhile, what ShaDoWn's doing down near the natural of the Zerg player, that takes a while. That's not just like one Immortal A move and go. It takes a bit to get kind of up and going.
There is another probe there, so that probe going down at the end of the world. Already this queen taking a lot of damage, but there's 3 roaches about to pop out, and they're all synced up. They're gonna pop at exactly the same time. This Stalker and Adept are in trouble.
And he's not pulling back just yet. It could cost him a Stalker. It looks like it will. Ooh. The queen didn't even die either, and that's gonna be a little bit of a thorn in his side, because the creep tower can go down, transfusion can happen. Bit of a problem here. Now, meanwhile, this attack's gonna happen on this other side. Now, there's no high ground spotting, so that Spine Crawler is actually a great call as well. And with just the, okay, there are 2 cannons here, but already one taking some significant damage.
And this is the problem with building cannons against the Proxy Ravager, is they cannot actually hit the biles. The Ravagers can just hit their biles from out of range. Whoa. They can deal with this. The Immortal actually fighting against drones here. Yeah. Scarlett getting a bit over eager there, trying to keep that Immortal back. She wants to keep the Spine alive, but she's losing a lot of workers there at the same time, though she's broken into ShaDoWn's main. ShaDoWn did not get enough Stalkers and batteries on the defense. Going for the cannons was the wrong choice there, and now it is just 1 Immortal and 1 Prism on the front, which he is desperately going to try and win the game with.
And the Prism's nice. Recharging the shield's also good, but basically what happens here is Scarlett's already won the battle at the main base. She can pull back all those forces. That main is forfeit. She's not going to do it just yet, but she could just leave 1 unit behind, or even just the queens. And then it all becomes about these 2 Immortals and a Warp Prism. And Pig, do they have what it takes to do this?
I mean, when there's
maybe,
a full base mining, it's going to be tough, right? Like, that is just going to be so much popping out. And the thing is, you've got no more mining. ShaDoWn is like, yeah, 2 Immortals and a Warp Prism, that's it. Is that a 3rd Immortal starting up? Yeah, I think, okay, that's the last bit of money, as the 3rd Immortal is starting to crack through the defenses here. The Spines are taking a lot of damage. The batteries, there's not a lot of batteries to fall back on, actually, and the drones do not die very quickly to these Immortals. Scarlett's just gonna pull the drones to the other side of the map, try and mine from over there. Look at these hot pickups, though. These Immortals gunning down a lot of these workers.
Well, getting a little bit away from it with the Warp Prism here, but yeah, a lot of the workers are going to go down. Of course, they're not mining while they're doing that. And this game gets a little bit complicated, because back over here, there is a few Ravagers, a couple Queens. And I think the Queens are going to be the all-stars here for me, because if that Warp Prism goes down, this game is over immediately. The 2 Immortals by themselves, very powerful, but they need that Warp Prism for this micro. Oh. And a little bit weird here, too, because it is just the 1 Immortal. The other Immortal, I think, is actually chopping down the remainder of Scarlett's base. Oh, no, there's 2 there now.
Just caught up here. A 3rd one's rallying across as well, but they're already very damaged. There's no shield batteries here. This is not the same as fighting next to your cannons and shield batteries. These units run out of shields, they run out of hit points. And the high ground advantage, the Immortals are going to try and push forwards, but the Queens, the Ravagers, there is some transfuse ready to go down as well. I don't think this is enough for ShaDoWn. These last few units trying to win the game. The micro is good, but is it enough? I don't think so. Scarlett has got more roaches and queens on the way. All she needs to do is buy time. ShaDoWn trying furiously to work his way in, but it's not going to be enough.
Really fantastic micro. I have to say, with what he has, he's doing a lot. But Scarlett, with the choice to relocate, getting away from those shield batteries, was such a brilliant and elegant call that I think it might just deliver her this win. Every reaction she's done so far has been really smart, really out of the box. And she is on her way. Now the micro's gonna come in here again. The 3 Immortals trying to do what they can.
Ooh, 1 Immortal does go down there. A couple of Ravagers did go down before that, which is very nice, but ShaDoWn there now loses 33% of the firepower, and just look at those hit points. Look at those those Immortals. They are so bruised. 1 volley and they're gonna go down, and ShaDoWn feels the urgency, knows he needs to try to finish it right now, doesn't get it, and Scarlett counters the cannon rush with the proxy hatchery. A very fun way to start off the series.
And I'll tell you what, at first glance, we talked a little bit about this, but the proxy hatchery by itself looked to be more of just kind of a like, hey, look at this kind of thing, you're not going to expand. I get that, but to see it actually develop, she was doing that chess grandmaster thing where they're thinking 3 moves in advance. It's not just the proxy hatch, it's that he's probably going to proxy a lot of the tech. He's going to be very aggressive behind the cannon rush. And if he does do that, the proxy hatch becomes checkmate. It's over. Like, I'm over there, you're away from the shield batteries, I kill your main. All of that came together. Scarlett with such a nice first win.
Yeah, you know, the late scout, I think, on the proxy hatch is somewhat pivotal there, because you said beforehand you actually liked the position for ShaDoWn. And I agree, if that Robo went down at home, it was just one cannon there to cancel the hatch. He's like, hey, yeah, hatch cancel. Let's play like an almost normal game from here, except guess what? One base Zerg for a Protoss who's building Stalkers and Immortals. That's crazy good. Not just that, but I think even if you commit to the Robo on the other side, if you build some Stalkers, some shield batteries, I mean, the Adept did very little, and the Cannons did very little, but if you've got even 2 or 3 Stalkers with shield batteries microing up and down that ramp, I don't see Ravagers breaking their way in as easily, so...
That's what I like about so much Pig. Like, this is something that you can't necessarily emulate on the ladder and just be like, well, this is the move I'll do, because you'll face a player that's like, no, I did make the Robo back at home, or I'm just defending back at home, because all I wanted was cancel your natural or win there. But specifically against ShaDoWn, specifically probably, and I liked a little bit of the analysis we got over there too, or from you, where Bly is her teammate. This is some of the cheeky stuff that they kind of have to deal with. I love that they were thinking, they were playing 17-dimensional chess. Like they were thinking so far in advance and just outside the box that it was specifically for what ShaDoWn was going to do that hatch was made for, not what he literally was doing in the time. Very smart play.
Absolutely, we are going to be launching into that next map. I can hear that countdown timer. And of course, the excitement starts to get going. It's a best of 5. First 1 to 3 wins will go through to the top 8, the quarterfinals. Scarlett, of course, needs a very high finishing here in WCS Montreal if she wants to be going through to BlizzCon. She went into the event at rank 15th in the standings. Of course, you need to be top 8 to get through. There's still 2 spots open for players to snatch up. It's very important she goes through the stage.
Probably, I mean, it's got to be a deep, deep run. She's got to get past this guy here first. As we enter into map number 2, with Scarlett leading 1-0. And in the bottom right-hand side from France, it's our blue Protoss, ShaDoWn.
And up here in the top left-hand side, in the red, the Zerg player representing Canada and her team, Talens Lions. She is Scarlett.
As that probe makes its way across the map, I do have to mention, I feel like what Scarlett did is a once per series kind of thing. That doesn't mean she doesn't have any other answers. It just means I feel like ShaDoWn will have a different reaction next time.
Yeah.
And all the stuff you talked about, Pig, would be the more appropriate response. Now, we are going to see the gas and the gateway, and in the past, I look at this and say, well, it can't be a cannon rush, but we've actually seen a lot of players do this, including Haz, of course, where the gateway just kind of jumpstarts your tech. You drop the forge if you see an opportunistic opening, like a later pool or a 3-hatch like the previous game. And you have that option. Now, of course, we haven't seen the forge just yet. He doesn't have to. He could just go into a normal expand build, and it looks like that's exactly what he's going to do. The probe comes down here and just patrols to drop the Nexus in a second. There it is.
It is cool to see Parasite now, of course, as we enter the best of 5 stage of the map, of the tournament, sorry. This is one of those newer maps. It's huge.
Yeah.
We don't see it played out that often because of it. I was talking to a few players before the tournament, and they were saying, you know, it's definitely one where a lot of Terran players are vetoing it. But Protoss vs. Zerg is interesting because there's very narrow choke points where it's kind of easy for Protoss to defend that angle, but there's a lot of angles that the Zerg can come from, so they can kind of pull the Protoss around. And whilst if you try to just force your way through any individual ramp, it can be a death sentence for the Zerg. If you pull them around, you throw some drops down, say that right-hand flank into ShaDoWn's main, there's a lot of ways you can pick the Protoss apart on this map.
Yeah, and it's funny you say drops, because that is something you can see Scarlett doing. She is a real fun player to watch in the sense that in a series like a best of 5 or best of 7, you almost never see the exact same build or even composition twice. That's part of what makes her such a difficult opponent, is you can see those proxy hatcheries like we saw. She'll even be offensive with that. We've seen spine crawler rushes, we've seen drop, muta, lurker, all of the above. So ShaDoWn is going to have to be on full alert. And like you said, the map plays to that as well. If you're in the right position, you can fight someone at a choke point or up a ramp. Fantastic for you. If they take that high ground, plant the lurkers or something like that, well, you're in a lot of trouble.
Fascinating to see ShaDoWn here with the very fast 2 Adepts and Stargate, but actually delayed his Warp Gate research a long time. Does take out his Axe after that first game on the innocent little cleaning bot, which is basically just a vacuum cleaner that wanders around the map. But
oh, let it finish. Why not? Just a couple lings there. Queen, of course, can get some chip damage off, but it's mostly a scout.
Guaranteed scouting, yeah. Trying to see if there's any really quick Evo chamber or just a flood of Zerglings or Roaches coming out nice and early. And of course, that makes you feel a lot safer as the Protoss player once you've done the full loop there. But the Overlord's going to poke towards the main. Phoenix is going to come out, deny that scouting, and it's going to be the typical Zerg versus Protoss situation. Zergs don't want to cut the amount of resources it takes to get Overlord speed or a fast lair to get an Overseer in. Protoss players don't like Zerg players seeing what they're doing, so it's very common to go Phoenix Oracle, but what happens next is the big question mark, and that's where we see Zerg players being very active with their Zerglings, trying to identify that. Those Adepts make it back to the wall, but one of them, already very low from that loop through the main, does go down.
Yeah, minor mistake. It's kind of like the Reaper in the TVZ matchup where it's like, you don't want to lose it because, of course, it can contribute and scout, but if it does, it's not the end of the world. Still a good pickoff for Scarlett. Now, behind this, we do see the Twilight Council, which is interesting. A lot of times, you'll see a second Stargate that's been very common in the meta right now, or perhaps even a Robo and go into that Archon drop. But with the Twilight Council, especially at this time, if we don't see a Robo in the next few seconds, which with the double gas, we very well could.
Yeah.
In fact, I think we will. Yeah, there it is. Okay. It is going to be Archon drop, it looks like.
Quite possibly, yeah. It's interesting. You can still do Glaive Adepts off this, but it's like not as committed as it would be where you kind of really rush into the resonating Glaives. So Phoenix comes in, Oracle gets a few worker kills. That Phoenix, of course, pairs up very nicely with that harassment. And okay, yeah. It's still quite a quick robo, though, with this. So definitely going to be getting a Prism over there, which is going to allow to kind of poke in multiple bases. And it's a longer map, right? You don't want to commit. We saw yesterday some players like SHOWDoWn going really fast, resonating Glaives, 10 Adepts straight across this short rush distance. Parasite, it takes forever to get over there. So I like adding in the quicker robo behind this, getting the third base up nice and early. You don't want to commit too hard to that one attack.
Yeah, and we have a tough angle here a little bit, but I don't see any outside pylon. It's going to be an observer first as well, so the build's a little bit off kilter. We're seeing Protoss be very severe these days. Like it's some kind of really strong harass, or it's some kind of timing attack. But very often is it not what we're seeing right now, which is a little bit of everything. I think the Robo, of course, does give you access to that War Prism we can see right there. But with a third Nexus and now the Robo Bay, we're not going to see an explosion of 9 gateways and some kind of huge timing attack. It's more of a, and I actually like this philosophy, just have the War Prism out there, just be able to harass.
It's a real shame to already lose 4 or 5 of those Adepts so early because Resonating Glaives isn't even done yet. Yet these Zerglings have found some very nice angles. They've surrounded those Adepts on the retreat. And that just almost completely mitigates the purpose of the Glaives upgrade in the first place. We see ShaDoWn, he's committing to even more Adepts now. But realistically, the wind has already been taken out of this pressure. Scarlett's got some roaches out behind this. She's going into Hydras, a very healthy work account in a 4th base. I very much like Scarlett's position. And I think the Overlord spots those Adepts. Indeed, it does right there. I believe, oh, that's an Oracle, actually. Never mind me. But there we go. It is spotted now. There's already plenty of roaches out. These Adepts are going to struggle to do any drone damage.
Wow, it's actually Colossus behind this. I was actually fully expecting Disruptor. It's been 2 Robo Colossus. Now, what I kind of like about the Adepts is that's a fairly common thing to see. It's like, okay, you're trying something out here. You're expanding behind that. That's normal Protoss stuff. But the double Robo Colossus is hugely crazy. That's not something we commonly see at all in this matchup. And Scarlett, if she doesn't scout, and this is the thing that can happen to Zergs because they're seeing normal stuff. I saw the Stargate, I saw the third, I saw the Adepts. I don't need to scout. I know what's happening behind this. They kind of rest on their laurels of the meta. But then all of a sudden 6 or 4 Colossus show up and you're starting to transition to Hydras. Well, that is bad news bears, Pig. That's not good.
Yeah, that can be really tough for the Protoss player. We have recently, though, seen this very fast Hive transition kind of coming into the meta. So there is a quick infestation, but it looks like Scarlett might be heading down that path. And if you've already got a Hive up, Vipers or potentially some sort of Broodlord transition can still be very good. And we haven't seen the Lurkaden just yet either. Oh, that War Prism. Oh, no. Oh, no. That War Prism,
I can't watch.
So unattended there for quite a while, is going to drop those Adepts off.
Now, Pig, you bring up a really great point. I want to touch on this. Those are Drop Lords, though, by the way. They get, and I love that. It's going to get spotted. Part of the reason you don't see the Colossus tech as much is because Zergs, like you said, are just going towards a faster Hive, or they just naturally have an okay reaction to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have what happened in HOTS where it was like, oh no, Colossus? I wasn't ready for that, I'm dead. So, ShaDoWn's got to hit a really poignant timing attack, and you'll notice he's not taking a 4th behind this. I'd be very surprised if he did. He's hiding the Colossus. He needs a gateway explosion, and he's got to go. He needs to hit that timing attack. Otherwise, Vipers, Corruptors, Lurkers, these are the things that shut down this kind of tech.
Oh, yeah, and he spotted the attack coming towards the main as well. 2 Immortals are up there, but no Colossi. Sent the Colossi all to the third base. A bit of an underestimation here of just how big this drop is from ShaDoWn. I think after he tagged the Overlords, he didn't expect Scarlett to commit to it, but she still dived into that main base. The Roach Hydra getting the damage done. The Zerglings on the workers. Oh, Colossi trying to get ferried back here. But this is such a bad start to this defense for ShaDoWn. Scarlett getting some massive damage done in the main. The Overlords rotating down at the natural. Unit swinging back in on the third base at the same time. Everything is falling apart for our French Protoss player.
It is not looking good. He had a really cool idea, and I hate to talk about this too fatalistically, but it's gone. I mean, he's down 80 some odd supply. He's losing units right and left. He was going for a timing attack, and with a timing attack, you're cutting probes, you're not really developing your tech further, and when you're on the defensive and you're losing stuff like this and you forget about a mineral line like he did inside his main, all that damage means the effectiveness of your timing attack is diminished completely. And Scarlett, by the way, scouts out what's coming while being aggressive. It could not look better for her.
Yeah, and even transitioning into some swarm hosts here. Gonna make quick work of those sentries and adepts on the left-hand side of the map. The Roaches redrop in the main. There's nothing that shoots up for ShaDoWn. Having to make unupgraded Stalkers here. Never what you want to be doing in this scenario. And Scarlett is all over this series. She is dominating the map in creep spread. She's ticking everything off behind it. Locust in the mineral line as well. And up into the 40s of probes killed. This is a very bad start to things for ShaDoWn.
To say the least. There's Colossus walking on creep by themselves. And if that doesn't kind of describe this game, then I don't know what will. They're going to get some shots in, sure, but without any support, they will simply die. And with it, the 195 supply to 55 will do it as Scarlett takes the second map and goes up 2-0. Pig, great ideas, interesting play, but the execution wasn't there. And Scarlett is outthinking and outmaneuvering ShaDoWn and showing why she is a household name and a consummate WCS pro, where ShaDoWn is unfortunately going up against a monster.
Yeah, it's tough when you face off against a player this experienced, but Scarlett, she's showing good control over this series, good responses right from the early game in that one. The Zerglings wrapping around the kind of fake first level of the Adept pressure, you know. ShaDoWn wanted to force a reaction, pull home. Nope. Oh, lost all those Adepts. Had to then invest more in the Adepts than he wanted to. By the time they got across this long map, the Roaches were ready. And from there, you've already invested in a lot of things that haven't achieved what you wanted out of the game. And then, of course, Scarlett, just as we talked about early on in Parasite, if you throw some drops in, you split in with an attack on multiple sides, suddenly those choke points don't help you out as much as the Protoss player.
Yes, and I have to reiterate, I mean, ShaDoWn shows up. This is his first, I believe, round of 16, at least at the WCS main level. Yeah. It's a huge performance. He beat Hero Marine. He beat some of these really fantastic top-tier players. He's been kicking butt on the ladder, so it's really cool to see the results come in. But this is that kind of sobering reality is when you hit this highest level. I mean, what I loved about this series so far, and we still have at least another game to go, Scarlett won that first game with the big brain plays, right? She outthought the strategy of ShaDoWn, came in over-prepared, if anything, for what he was going to do. And then in game number 2, I love ShaDoWn's game plan. It's really brilliant. It's really cool. It's smart to the map. It's smart to Scarlett. But unfortunately, and you touched on this, Pig, and this was such an interesting moment in time, he sees the Drop-A-Lords, he tags them, so he's literally seeing them, like he's watching them, but there's so much going on in StarCraft that you can't watch them forever, and he probably just assumed they're fake. She's not gonna still drop, is she? But then she does, and it's the big winning move. It's just crazy, brainy plays like that that feel kind of weird, but end up being so good.
It's always the funny thing there where you kind of call their bluff and then they just go with it anyway and you go, no.
Like, why would you do that? I was looking right at it. And she's like, yeah, well, maybe you weren't.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? A lot of these moves aren't always necessarily something you have to commit to. Scarlett could always turn around if she saw enough defense, drop on the low ground and kind of rotate it. But just great calm play here from the Canadian Zerg. The Queen of Blades in good form. I'm very happy to see her back in her element, building up a bit of momentum as well. Important for a player like Scarlett, who has a bit of a fiery temperament. You know, when she gets some wins under her belt, sometimes she does pick up that momentum. She starts to play better throughout the tournament.
She'll need it. There's blood in the water. If she completes this series, she'll be facing Cyril, who tripped up in the ZvZ, but then quickly took care of business. But that would have to be waiting for tomorrow. Right now, we're into game number 3. Top right-hand side from France. Needing your support, it's the Blue Protoss, ShaDoWn.
And facing off against him in the bottom left-hand side of this map, the red Zerg player. Give it up for Scarlett.
Montreal has been awesome, beautiful city, wonderful event so far. Time seems to be flying. Had a lot of upsets yesterday. We'll have to see if that trend continues. As that first series, no upset there except for maybe the one map loss, which would be lunacy to talk about with anybody else except for Cyril. And we're gonna have that high ground gateway, and this has, in the past, yep, there it is, there's the forge. So it's gonna be that kind of, now when you go up here, by the way, it's the aggressive cannon rush. You're hoping to cannon rush the natural, but then also probably build a robo there, some shield batteries, and go for that kind of attack.
Because you can get the very fast cybercore since your gateway's already done. Interestingly, that probe hiding there, are we gonna see a full pylon wall off from ShaDoWn? Not going for it just yet. That probe looking a little bit suspect. The Overlord's turned around. This probe coming in the front.
It's going to happen.
Cybercore's already on the way. Yeah, it's got to go down, right?
Yep. No, to your point, it's just a question of saving up the minerals a little bit and then what style of cannon rush you want to go for. Now, Scarlett already has the drone going over towards the third. I imagine she cancels this natural after it gets invested.
Ooh, gas steal going down as well, wanting to limit her tech, not wanting all those Ravages to come out like in game number 1. Third hatch is going to go down, but because there's no drones pulled, just a very simple 2-cannon commitment, and it's going to be straight into the robotics so early here for ShaDoWn.
Yep.
They're already, that robotics goes down on the natural expansion. This is going to be very tough for Scarlett to stop. She's investing in Ling Speed and Queens, and that's what she needs to do because she's not going to have enough gas for Ravages. She's going to need to either counterattack or find some way to overwhelm this.
Now, wonderfully, she scouts it immediately. Her Overlord over at the natural spots this, and what is not being seen by that gas is the 4 spine crawlers. Ooh. And that's kind of a crazy investment. The Immortal will come out fairly quick. Obviously, I don't think it'll be fast enough, but what these spine crawlers are leveraging is that they don't want the Immortal itself to do any damage at all.
Yeah.
The problem is when the Warp Prism shows up, all she's going to have available to her is Queens, and so far it looks like Lings. And that's not the best answer for that because it's hard to get at the Immortals that way.
You know, it's interesting. I wonder if she's going to try and just jump down on this with the spine crawlers and break it.
But what
with
creep?
Spines and, yeah, I mean, she's got a creep tuber down there. Yeah, she's going to try and bust this. She's got a lot of Zerglings on the way, Queens as well. That first Immortal, though, is already almost out. And I think ShaDoWn should now be realizing more cannons, more batteries desperately going down. Spine crawlers starting to burrow in range of this. The creep tumor is spreading closer and closer. Queens and Zerglings entering the fray. The first Immortal comes out, but remember, there's no roaches here. The Immortal does not get bonus damage against Zerglings.
And it's already started to chop down some of the Zerglings. The first cannon died very quickly. The second one going to die here as well. ShaDoWn spotted this fairly early, so one of the problems is going to be the fact that he can kind of SimCity behind this. That one cannon out of reach of a lot of this. The Zerglings going for the surrounding. You grab the Immortal. Can they hold on to it for long enough? The shield battery recharging it for this whole time.
Yeah, that probe even adding in there as well. The shield batteries are out of energy. There's not many Zerglings left. That Immortal pulling back into the choke point. The Queen's just barely out of range. The Queen with the high energy taking a lot of cannon shots, but it manages to pull back the spines. Getting closer and closer to the action. 2 Immortals now out. There's one spine crawler goes down. ShaDoWn gets the snipe on it, but his buildings are falling. There's still more spines and more Zerglings joining the fight for Scarlett.
One shield battery about to die as well. More being built behind this, but just now finishing up. The Warp Prism is going to be the final boss in this situation. If that can pop out, the tides will turn, and Scarlett very likely could even just tap out with how powerful it is, but they're going to try to get on top of the Immortals again. They're going to wedge themselves back in the spot. It's just a one pylon powering that whole corner. If it can die, this whole thing could shut down immediately.
There's no tasteless here. That's just an osmosis pylon. It goes down.
1 second for popping out.
All the shield batteries and cannons are made useless. The Prism can't get out. The Immortals are trapped, trying to barely escape. The shield battery keeping that Immortal alive for just a few more valuable seconds.
You gotta be
Another
kidding
pylon
me.
trying to rebuild. These Immortals just will not go down. Living up to their namesake. The spine crawlers trying to depower this, but these Immortals coming forward. The spines are starting to fall. Can ShaDoWn hold on? The Prism is out, and the Immortals are managed to be ferried to safety. The spines are gonna fall. He's gonna hold on.
He is absolutely holding on. Each shield battery finished just in the nick of time to get that Immortal, the shields that it needed. All the spine crawlers are gone, and behind this whole thing, Scarlett's actually down 2 workers, keep in mind. And that was the main thrust of the attack. She's not developing any tech behind this. It's just more Queens and Lings. ShaDoWn knowing that the only thing that could really threaten him is a counterattack is building a cannon back at home. But holy Toledo. Now, I think the probe, did it die over by the robo?
I think the probe died, so the prism's the only way to power those structures now. You can't build more batteries there either. This cannon not quite done. The Zergling's going to put on some nice counter pressure there. 3 Immortals, though, are going to be counter pressuring, and that's just so scary when you're just building Zerglings here with no upgrades. A couple of Queens that don't even have transfuses. That goes down. No Baneliness for you, Scarlett. ShaDoWn is coming into this main base with a vengeance. Scarlett reconsolidating her forces. She's trying to come back to defend this, but the Ling wraparound is good. Some nice hot pickups here from ShaDoWn. The Queens, though, starting to focus down that Prism. There's too many Zerglings here. The hot pickups, though. The hot pickups are so good. The Immortals just refusing to fall. And once again, ShaDoWn here with spectacular micro. Oh, the shield battery healing it, though, even as the Queens are trying to focus it.
And she chuckles as well, because that is just a nutty, nutty game. Fantastic micro to get back to the shield batteries. If ShaDoWn sticks around for 2 seconds longer and is like, you know what, maybe I can fight this out, the Warp Prism goes down, the Immortals get surrounded. This game is absolutely over. And that game came down to a couple of those split-second choices several times, and ShaDoWn made the right call each time. An absolutely fun. I mean, I'll tell you what, there are people at the hardcore StarCraft guys are rolling their eyes like, come on, give me a 45-minute macro game. But I'll tell you what, I don't mind a game like that every once in a while. That was an absolutely amazingly fun game.
That was incredible. I can't wait to see the conclusion of this series. Guys, we're going to go to a quick break. We'll be back with WCS Montreal in just a moment. And we're back with WCS Montreal. Scarlett versus ShaDoWn, and down and dirty Zerg versus Protoss series we are in the midst of right now. This young man over here, we thought he was going to go down 3-0 for a moment, but he fights back. His incredible cannon rush, a Prism Immortal Micro coming out there, and he does snatch one map back. But Scarlett's still just one map away from finishing the series.
And she's got to be a little bit upset. There was, again, just so many moments in that last game where really she just could have absolutely won. And we don't get to talk about ShaDoWn except for the fact that he got 3-0'd and Scarlett just simply outplayed him. But in that last game, he's able to pull out the miracle. And that's him. In the lower right-hand side, the blue Protoss, it's ShaDoWn.
And up here in the top left-hand side, representing Canada in the red, she is Scarlett.
Once again, Pig, we see the high ground gateway, the gas, and everything in me says, ShaDoWn says, you know what? That last game worked out pretty darn okay. Maybe I try it again.
Yeah, it definitely did work out very well in that last one. Of course, the gas deal changed up Scarlett's response. She was still very close to breaking it with the Spine Crawler Zergling bust. I really wonder if Scarlett's just going to kind of commit to stopping it getting up in the first place, but she's going pool first this time around, gas pool in fact.
Yeah.
So she's going to be super prepared with early Zerglings to stop any sort of cannons. But I think ShaDoWn is committed with that forge already being down, and indeed, there we go. Yeah, going to put down that pylon back there. Going to come in with a second probe and wall off with a cannon there. And drone pool not even coming down. Are we going to see a second gas and Ravages? I think that might just be the call from Scarlett.
So he's going to try to lock into cannon. Scarlett sees it. He's going to block that spot with the 2 probes, so the drone will die.
Ooh, yeah.
And with the DPS of just a couple of Zerglings, it's not going to be enough. He can seal this in. And then it becomes, yeah, I can go ahead and cannon your natural again, but more importantly, I can start building my robo and stuff.
Yeah, these Zerglings just going to try and cancel like 1 or 2 of the cannons, slow it down a little bit, force another shield battery to go down, but realistically, you haven't really done much to delay this push as Scarlett. Now, you've still got your natural production to work with. And yeah, 1 gas because it's mining so early. Usually enough with this because you're putting so much minerals into the batteries and cannons, but has Scarlett got her second gas up? She does, right? She's just starting it now. Okay, cool.
Also, no drone out on the map, right? So once this cannon wall comes in, there is no stopping it. You are not getting out and expanding elsewhere. This will be it. So I actually, we're way in, we're not that far in, but I really like this for ShaDoWn. I think this is starting to shape up nicely for him.
Yeah, looking at this, I'm trying to formulate what Scarlett's plan is in my head, and I'm not really sure if there is a concrete plan other than just make Ravages and try to bust out. And my experience tells me that very rarely works out, not when there's this sort of setup. You can notice how the cannons and batteries are spaced, so a corrosive bile will not be able to land on 2 structures at once. The first Immortal is already out. And if you give me a choice of 1 Immortal with a few shield batteries backing it up or a few Ravages, I will pick the Immortal every time in control.
I would have to agree with that. Now, the first shield battery is getting fairly low, but it's just not that big of a target. You can remake them. They're fairly cheap. They come with full energy. It's just not a great spot to be in, and already they are low. So there's the first transfusion, but that's just going to buy a little bit of time. Second Immortal is queued up and ready to go, getting chrono boosted out here. And this Immortal is starting to pack the wall up. Now, behind this, as Pig pointed out, there is no huge swell of Lings. I don't even think there's speed upgraded. It's just going to be the Ravagers and whatever else she can get going.
I think you've kind of got to give up the hatchery here as Scarlett. You can't keep hemorrhaging hit points on these Ravages because that isn't a non-renewable resource. Yeah, you've got some transfusers coming up on the Queens. We've got more Queens coming out. But without the Ling speed to buffer, every hit point that goes down in these Ravages is huge. And Scarlett is not able to trade with this the way she would like. These Immortals are up front. They're strong. The Prism is halfway done. And this is just a clinical build so far by ShaDoWn. Very much the way he wanted this to go. Despite the pull first, the Zerglings were not able to slow this. Scarlett's going to come forward and try to bust a little bit, but a Ravager gets focused down, and a Ravager for a cannon. Not a terrible trade for Scarlett, but her hatchery has fallen.
And here comes that Warp Prism. This is where this build gets elevated, is now the Hunter becomes the hunted. The Immortals in that Warp Prism able to chase down a lot of the Queens that did take that damage you were talking about earlier. All of a sudden, not as strong of an anti-air candidate as this Immortal Warp Prism combo is going to come forward. There's 1 Queen exposed. She's gone. 2 more Queens in the front lines. Honestly, I would have targeted them, perhaps. He's going to go ahead and kite backwards now with that hot pickup, get back to the Warp Prism, or excuse me, the shield batteries, and power up over there.
Yeah, these Immortals just doing so much damage here. The Queens and Ravagers just do not have the ability to force connections on these Immortals. The micro from ShaDoWn is too good. He's just picking up and dodging the biles. The Immortals are focus firing very well. You'll notice he's even dodging the projectiles of the Ravagers' attack. And a very nice victory there. ShaDoWn knew how to play that scenario perfectly. The pull first did not phase him one bit.
Pig, I think you hit the nail on the head. In that first game of the series, I thought it was Scarlett that had this amazing, very brainy response to what was coming. But this time around, you could tell it was ShaDoWn that was the one that was seeing several stages ahead. And it was Scarlett that was just not seeing that. She's like, with the early pull, there's no way he can still get these cannons going. It's got to be something different, but by being able to tuck it into that corner and just remove enough surface area for the Lings to do enough damage, the siege was on, and Scarlett was just kind of already committed to her response, and it just was too inadequate.
Yeah, the Ravagers unable to break through that bust. That wall-in just so good with the cannons, the batteries, the Immortals are out so early, and that really is the innovation with this variation of the build. It's the fact that you're going a gateway and then a forge. This is not the fastest possible cannon rush, but it is a very fast cyber core. You've got gas mining very fast. That means the moment the cannon is established, you've already got a robotics down. Those Immortals hit the field so fast. And it's almost like the cannons aren't even there to kill the hatcheries. They're just there to make sure you get your Immortals out on their side of the map.
Yep, that's exactly right. And as fast as they come, as you just pointed out too, is the big problem, because you're initially worried about the cannons. You're like, if I can stop the cannons, then the Immortals never come. But then when they do get that established, you're already committed to that first response, and it's not good enough for what's to come. Now we're at 2-2 in this best of 5. That means we're going to one final map, and I have to say, if ShaDoWn completes the upset, this will be one of the bigger ones I've seen in a while. Scarlett in good form. We don't make any excuses for her right now. She's had a fantastic tournament in Montreal so far. Really destroying some top-level opponents. But here against ShaDoWn, the ladder hero gone pro, it'd be pretty amazing for this young Frenchman to show up in front of this audience, beat Scarlett, and advance to face Cyril.
I'd 100% love to see a drone scout from Scarlett, and I 100% know it's not going to happen because Zerg Pro players don't drone scout against Protoss.
They don't. It costs too much. It's like 7 minerals or something.
Yeah, it just never happens, man. Well, we're going to have to see what she's got in store, what both players have prepared, of course. Neither one's sure what the other one's going to bring out here in game number 5.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, it's just the second match of the day. We have 6 more to go. Lots of StarCraft coming your way, but we're starting off with a really, really fun one in this top right-hand corner. I'm getting all over myself. It's the blue Protoss, ShaDoWn. I'm just so excited about this cannons, Pig.
It's an exciting play style, and it's something which can also be very tough to beat. But no doubt her brain is racing on how she's going to stop this right now. Down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, in the red, the Zerg player. She is Scarlett.
A lot of Scarlett fans here, deservedly so. She is Canadian and awesome. But she is up against a tough, tough matchup that ShaDoWn plays Protoss, but a little bit different. Now, this is actually what I was hoping to see from Scarlett. I mean, you could see the Ravagers, which we saw before, but she's actually spine crawl rush a lot of people, but ShaDoWn is going to pick up on it immediately.
Oh, he knows straight away. And you don't even drop the Nexus in this scenario. I think you might just, he's even going to go cannons. Okay. I was thinking maybe just Chrono Boost Zealots, get a second gateway and just kind of like get a second gas and tech right up. But I think cannons will definitely stop him from losing. And you know what? That works too. You know what? You end up with some cannons there. Later on, they protect the area in between your natural and your third base as well. So why not? Going to shut down the investment from Scarlett there. So I like the response from ShaDoWn so far.
Well, I love this Overlord as well. It can show up and she could cancel it. You don't have to put your whole tournament life on this. Let him commit a little bit. Cancel and go home and just do normal stuff. Speedlings pop out, you start getting roaches, you get a normal game out of this.
If you don't cancel this, you're crazy, Scarlett. Please, please, please cancel that hatchery, because it's an equal investment for both sides, right? The hatchery's a bit earlier, but the cannons are the same cost. You gotta get the forge before the cannons as well.
Oh my gosh.
She cancels it. A very good choice from Scarlett.
I actually love that call as well. So just go ahead and build those cannons. Of course, ShaDoWn cancels them, but it's gonna have to, wow, he didn't cancel one. That's a little bit of an odd choice. He's gonna have to make another one inside the main though, because again, in his mind, so far the reaction has been Ravagers and Lings and that kind of thing.
Scarlett doesn't know about this. Her Zerglings are scouting, but they need to find that Robo. He's still going with the same plan, which has done so well from that cannon's not up yet. That cannon's not up yet.
Oh, he's so
nice
fast.
Wall off. ShaDoWn watching for this is gonna get that Robo up. Even throws down a second pylon in case this one gets depowered. And you know what? Scarlett once again is dealing with an Immortal Siege scenario. This time around, she's got Ling Speed and the second gas, but most importantly, she's got a lot more room to work with. These Immortals are not going to be as close, and their shield batteries are not going to be as close. She's still creating problems on the other side of the map with the hatchery, which is going to potentially take him out with the counterattack because he's building no combat units at home.
Absolutely love the relocation of the hatch. The cannon did finish at the natural, so don't worry about it. You'll just lose that hatchery. ShaDoWn's not looking to expand, but in his mind, the danger's gone. That drone, the hatchery, if it's not there, well, it shouldn't be anywhere else, right? Wrong, it's inside your main. And from there, just a queen, some lings, or even any number of roaches at all will once again shift this game into what can 2 Immortals and a Warp Prism do. And Pig, you talked about this, but without the shield batteries to go back to, with them being pushed off like that, you can defend the main. You can pick up that Warp Prism.
He's going to be building some forward shield batteries here to start sieging that natural. I like this move from ShaDoWn, trying to set up a very frustrating position for Scarlett to deal with. The Immortal is going to start to combat those queens as they do try and deny that shield battery. Zerglings, Roaches, and Ravagers all on the way. The proxy hatchery is almost ready, and there is a Warp Prism here. So this Immortal now can start to dance around. There's no real fear for it accidentally traveling too deep into the enemy territory. The Corrosive Bile starting to land as well. These are a lot of losses for ShaDoWn. Not a lot of fire power on the map for the Protoss player right now.
Yep, and she's doing such a good job buying some time as that Ravager count can continue to grow. Now remember, as Pig just said, the hatch has finished inside the main. ShaDoWn will get the bad news here in a second. Scarlett so far has not opted to build anything as all the resources are being pooled here. But this shield battery siege is being pushed so far back and so much time is being bought that as soon as Scarlett does use up those larvae over there to just kind of shut down the economy of ShaDoWn, this game gets simplified.
I mean, already she's doing pretty good on the defense, but now that there's 2 Immortals and a Prism, she's got to use that proxy hatchery, because as the Immortal count grows, the Prism can micro them just pretty much forever. The shield batteries continuing to build on the front lines here, and these Immortals just taking off pot shots. They're still very, very healthy. Scarlett's actually going to try and run out and flank and maybe even counterattack across the map, but there are cannons over there, and this is 3 Immortals.
Kind of an interesting choice. I feel like the proxy hatch just does it. I don't understand at all the whole army going out there. I mean, maybe she was going to flank back, but Pig, you're right. She's actually committing everything over there. There's buildings over here, and the Immortals we already know in open air can kill darn near an infinite number of Ravagers. Now he gets the recall back.
Yeah. Recall back, 2 Immortals and a Prism. That's going to be very useful. There's still some cannons at the front there. And they are going to slow this down just a little bit. And this hatchery's here, though. It can reinforce Zerglings. And Scarlett just turns around. She's going to go back and try to bust the front.
I don't like it, Pig. I really don't. I mean, if you're over there across the map, yeah, okay, good. At least depower this. I know it's not a big victory, but open it up for some lings to squeeze by and maybe get back there later, because these Immortals can't stay there forever.
Yeah, this is a really tough position. She's going to take the cannon down, and she is going to push into that main base. It's just 2 Immortals and a Prism. She's got to get in that mineral line, and she's got to get in there now. She's going to push forwards. At the same time, she's rallying straight across the map. ShaDoWn needs to be intercepting those reinforcements, but he's not right now. He's only now moved into the center of the map. At the same time, the Lings just going to chase off those Immortals. Yes, the Immortals can wear this down eventually, but guess what? All of your economy is going to be gone by then.
2 Immortals almost get sandwiched between those Broodlings and the Lings themselves. The main base is going to be gone. Any defense here is now pointless, as this is just completely forfeit. Scarlett has made this game all about the offense on the other side of the map. There's no money for a Nexus. There is nothing to be made. Now, what's also important here is that there's no more shield batteries to be made. Anything that's lost is gone. That's the single use of that. And this is nice. That's a really scary setup, and he does have the 1 Warp Prism, but if Scarlett picks off the Warp Prism, this game is over.
Absolutely. It's 6 Immortals, though. That is the one thing working in ShaDoWn's favor. 6 Immortals and a Warp Prism and a lot of dreams. That's all he's got to hope on here. ShaDoWn is going to try and finish this game off with these 6 Immortals. He has no income. Yes, he's not going to be eliminated because he's got the cannons and the batteries, but he has to finish Scarlett off. She is mining a ton of money right now. She goes in, takes down a pylon, and just pulls back for now. She's just biding her time. She knows that time is on her side. She has got a base mining. He does not have any income. The longer he waits, the worse the situation goes for the French Protoss.
A little bit of a miscue here, and this is where the micro gets really hard. He's not microing 1 spot, but actually 2. And all the micro is down to this. Those Immortals do get surrounded.
The corrosive biles are gonna land! 3 Immortals just get crushed! And you can see it on ShaDoWn's face. Frustration, a tilt to the head to the side. Those Immortals going down was it.
Wow, what a series! ShaDoWn gave it his all, but Scarlett with the big brain plays is able to pull it out. And you won't see many games like that, at least not until Has plays later today. But congratulations to Scarlett as she survives ShaDoWn. The 2 players go back and forth with the great plays, and at the end of the day, she emerges 3-2 victorious.
What a series there. Indeed, 300 IQ plays on both sides. It just
At least.
those games are actually so hard to adapt in on
Yes.
both sides of the equation. It is incredibly difficult. But Scarlett hangs on, and that counterattack in the end made it happen.
Yes.
Awesome to see her having a handle on one of the toughest strategies to beat right now. I can't wait to hear Scarlett's thoughts on that match.
Thank you very much, guys. Congratulations, Scarlett. That was a nerve-wracking, very tense series, but you come out on top in the end. You are moving forward to that round of 8, and this is actually your first round of 8 in the WCS this year. And not only that, you were able to do so in front of your home crowd here in Canada. So how much more special is that for you?
Actually, I've only ever made round of 8 in WCS in Montreal, Canada. Every single year I got round of 8, so I'm really happy about that. Unfortunately, I have to play Cyril next, but I think out of all the foreigners, I've had the closest matches against him this year, so I definitely have a chance there.
Definitely, and I can't move on without talking about this series, as it seemed to start out simple enough, 2-0 for you, and then things started to look a little bit tricky. Let's start with Lost and Found, because it started off similar to game 1, but your response was a bit different, and then the whole game played out differently, so break down that match for us.
So actually, in game 1, I kind of blind countered his cannon rush. I took his hatchery so I could easily counterattack, and it was just really easy from there. And on Lost and Found, I have that response prepared, but usually they put the cannons in a different spot, and it's a bit easier. I still should have won that game, I think, if I targeted better, but after that game, it went a bit downhill, I guess.
And then I need to bring up Blue Shift as well, because that was the final map, and that was the make or break point between you or him moving on, and it was really, really tense at times. At what point did you realize, okay, I have it, I'm moving on?
I thought I got a good chance when I went and killed all his economy. Actually, I got a hatchery up in his base, but I kind of forgot about it when I was defending. So I think it would have been a lot easier if I made Lings there early, because he would have had to recall it or something.
All right, well, thankfully you are moving on. I'm sure the fans here are really happy to see that. And like you said, it is going to be a very, very tough opponent in Cyril. That being said, last WCS event in Valencia, you faced him, and it was a very close series, 3-2. So now that you're facing him again, is there anything you learned potentially from that loss that you think you can apply this time around?
Actually, I think I should have won that match. On the fourth game on Darkness, I was up 2-1, and I was in like a 90 to 10% winning scenario, and then his attack was coming, and I thought I was so far ahead I didn't even need to make spines, and I just died. So I think if I prepare builds ahead of the time, I've had good results against him, so I'll just try and think about what to do. Yeah.
Can't wait to see how that match goes. Thank you very much, Scarlett. Congratulations again on moving on to the round of 8 here in Montreal, Canada. Nathanius, back to you.
Thank you very much, Mix. A big congratulations. Lots of cheers for Scarlett as she moves on against, well, Roddy, you said it, a very dangerous Protoss player.
Yeah, it was a little dirty. I expected it to be dirty. It was even dirtier than I thought it was. I might have thought like maybe 2 or 3 cannons, but nope. He went for it 4 out of 5 games, but I love the way that Scarlett responded. Obviously, I think game 1, this is kind of what we were talking about before. Stylistically, I always felt that this was going to be a good one because Scarlett is very smart in approaching these series, and she said it here on stage as well. Game 1 was a blind counter. Game 2, it's like, all right, let's play a macro game. And I mean, no disrespect to ShaDoWn, but you could clearly see there that Scarlett is a little bit better in those kind of games. But then it still got very, very dangerous in the end.
That was such an amazing series. I mean, it was a nail-biter, right? And I talked about this on the casting desk, but it feels like, as a Scarlett fan, your heart's always like in palpitations, because it never seems as easy as maybe it should be. Maybe someone in the crowd was like, oh, this will be a 3-1, if that, and then instead it's the nail-biting ace match that was only determined in the last 2 minutes.
Scarlett does seem to get into a lot of those scrappy situations, but she pulls her way out, and now we have her going up against Cyril, who she just said that she should have been able to beat him. And I think a lot of us agree that Darkness Sanctuary game, she was miles ahead.
I absolutely agree with her. Sometimes, you know, pro players say like, I really feel like I should have won that game. Then we analyze it as like, he was 3 workers ahead. You know, it really wasn't that big of a deal. But no, Scarlett is completely right. In Valencia, she was up 2-1 in that series. She was in an amazing position in Darkness. We were looking at each other in the green room. I was like, oh my goodness, like it has happened. Cyril has lost. But then Cyril didn't lose. Cyril turned it around. So it's going to be a great one. But what also has happened a couple of times, Nate, is when people really feel that this is the time they're going to beat Cyril, it gets actually uglier than it ever has been before. So it's like, oh, yeah. So you do think you're going to beat me. Well, let's see how it plays out. But I'm excited for it. That should really be a very fun ZvZ series for us.
Cyril has that magical quality, it seems. And not only is he an amazing player overall, and we can usually depend on him to win, that time when it's like, well, hold on a second. No, it actually doesn't matter. He still does that thing where he comes back in a game, he comes back in a series, and he still wins tournaments.
That's the magical thing about Cyril. I think we got an updated bracket to look at as we have that first round of 8 match set. It is going to be Cyril versus Scarlett. And coming up, we've got some more ZvZ for you. Lambo is going to go up against Xanster. We'll have DNS against Showtime. And that will determine whoever the winner of that series is going to go up against. So another great couple of matches that we got coming up here at the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series. And after the break, we'll be back with Lambo versus Xanster.